Hello, and welcome to a new edition of True Audiophiles. In this week's episode, I'm going to cover what does it mean to have good sound quality. I wanted to bring this up because I really believe that it's all up to the listener in terms of what they think is good sound quality. Because I really truly feel that not everybody is looking for the same thing when it comes to sound and what is considered good sound quality. I say this because I spend a lot of time, probably too much time, in Facebook groups and forums. When people asking about, hey, what's good sound quality? What's the best pair of speakers for $300? What's the best sounding pressing of, the White Album or whatever it might be. And it really got me thinking because, well, especially the ones with the speakers and just, amplifiers and digital to analog converters and all that kind of stuff. And I need to try to not answer those ones as often, but I kind of have a canned response in those where it's really up to you, the listener, as to what sounds best, because what might sound great to you may not sound great to everybody else. I mean, there's a reason why there are hundreds of different speakers out there to choose from. And as you've, I'm sure, seen, there's, just a ton of different options out there for pressings that different people have different opinions on. I know there are people that think the older MoFi recordings are too smiley face EQs. So in other words, there's a little bit too much of a boost in the bass and the treble. I think, and then that same group of people sometimes feel that there's not enough EQ on the newer ones, where the argument becomes on those, and I don't want to spend too much time on those just because I want to get a little bit more deep into sound quality specifically. But the Mobile Fidelity is known for about transferring, at least the current ones, transferring what's on the original master tape onto record or onto an SACD without futzing with it too much. So it doesn't, it sounds as close as you can get to what they're listening to on that master tape. Maybe they'll tweak an EQ a little bit here and there, but that's really all they do. The biggest thing for them is making sure that the transfer to, disc or to record is as high of a quality as you can possibly get and as accurate as you can get without making a whole lot of changes to it. So that being said, for some people, the EQ is going to be the most important thing. Maybe it's soundstage for others. And when I say, EQ, like the most accurate or flat response you can get for the most part without having too many bumps in, the high frequencies or the low frequencies or things like that. For some people, it's soundstage. How deep is that soundstage? How wide is the soundstage? How well can you basically place all the instruments within that sound stage? Sometimes it's pitch and things on that nature. And when I say pitch, the more I specifically talk about that because this comes into play mostly when you're listening to records, although it can happen digitally, but it's pretty rare. And that is, if your turntable isn't playing at exactly 33 1/3 or 45 RPM, you're going to tend to have it be a slight bit off pitch. And also if you have like an off center or warped record, sometimes you will get a warbling effect to the sound. For me personally, I don't notice that kind of stuff as much. And I know I have some friends that, they are just laser focused on that and they hear it immediately. And to those people, I sort of commend them, but also feel sorry for them because that would drive me nuts if that's something I picked up on. And, I definitely wouldn't be able to listen to records if I picked up on that kind of stuff. So, but also, then there's also compression, in terms of how much they make the quietest part of this song sound as loud as the loudest part. And the closer those two are together, the less dynamics they have. And there are a lot of people out there that want to have as much dynamic range as possible, just because it does sound more natural, but at the same time, compression is good, in my opinion. Too much is bad, but, a right level of compression gives you kind of a livelier feel to the song or the album, and really kind of punches it up some and really gives it more of a lively feel to it. So, another thing is distortion. Some people just feel they need to have zero distortion all across the board. These are people, especially that really are into digital and digital only and can't stand analog, because digital tends to have a lot less audible distortion in terms of what you can hear, because it's as close to a perfect of a copy as you can get. And I don't want to go too deep into that rabbit hole, but I have a little bit of a different take on digital, but I still like it quite a bit, and I listen to it quite a bit. And but anyways, you're gonna have, probably it's true in terms of a distortion, pitch, wow and flutter or warbling sounding. You're gonna have virtually none of that in the digital domain. So there is that advantage. Obviously you're not gonna have crackles and pops or anything like that unless the original master is a record, which happened in the 30s, 40s, and I think even early 50s. But in my opinion, there's good distortion and there's bad distortion. For example, tube amplifiers. I think they sound really good, especially on mid to high frequency ranges. And you put a good tube amplifier in there, and yes, there's going to be distortions. But in my opinion, it's good distortion. Some people don't like that, and they want solid state or even digital amps, because they tend to have a more accurate sound. So there's less distortion, and just get you the most accurate representation of the music. But I think that's something that is all in the ear of the beholder. I personally am less concerned with the technical aspect of it, in terms of, well, is this going to give you the least amount of distortion and give you the most accurate representation of it, or is it going to give me the sound that I like the most? And that is really what I look after when I listen to music. I know there's a lot of people that kind of run through stuff through digital processing to check to see, check for distortions and check for speed and check for, all this other stuff. And to me, I could care less about that. I want to put on the music, whether it's on a record or CD or whatnot, and I want to listen to it. And if it sounds pleasing to me, and it sounds the best to my ear and from my opinion, then that's what I want to go with. All formats, I'm going to do a little bit of a controversy here, but all formats have their limitations or issues. It's all a question of what limitations or issues you're more tolerant of. And there's also the situation where certain sounds artists are trying to achieve, where maybe they're looking to go for that lo-fi sound, and that's why the recording sounds like that. I personally don't like those. I prefer a more professional and polished sounding recording, even on punk or metal or any of that other kind of genres that tend to have a lo-fi sound, like grunge also. I really prefer a more professional sounding, clean and polished sounding recording. I mean, there's polished, and then there's too clean too. So I definitely like a raw edge to the music, but it's got to have just a good quality recording where I can really hear all the performances that are on that recording. So my bottom line is this: sound quality is in the ear of the beholder. The best suggestion I can make to you in terms of trying to find the best sounding version of anything, whether it's speakers or pressings or masterings of a CD or digital format, is to find a person that you trust their opinion in. And when I say trust, I mean you can put that record on or that CD on or play those speakers, and you're going to agree with what they said about them. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person that you don't agree with is wrong, because it's just their personal preference. You could have a completely different personal preference, and you could be reading reviews from someone like me, even like I've been doing many videos on shootouts where I did the shootouts for the Mingus and the David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust and the Boston Self-Titled and Van Halen, and I give my opinion on which one I think sounds best. And you know what? I'm not right. It's just my opinion. I could be very wrong in your eyes because you may have a different take on it and you may feel a different one sounded better than the one that I chose. So, and that's okay. I think the key is being okay with other people's opinion, but also recognizing that it's just that. It's opinion. It's not a fact. No matter how much experience you have, no matter whether you're in the industry or not, your opinion on what sounds best in terms of a mastering of whether a record or analog or digital sound better, or an amplifier and speakers or headphones, it doesn't matter. Even if you're in the industry, even if you're considered an expert, your opinion on what sounds best is just that. It's not fact. It's just an opinion. So take opinions lightly. Don't take them seriously unless you find that person that really has the same ear, if you will, as you do. And when I say ear, I mean, what you listen to the same stuff they do that they say that sounds best and you agree with that statement. Then I would say you trust their opinion and go with it. There are a lot of people that I will trust to a certain extent. I don't know if I've actually found any reviewers of any kind of music that I 100% agree with them all the time. But there are certain ones that I will listen to, and there's also definitely some that I'll take that I'll listen to with a grain of sand. Where I'm just not necessarily going to trust what they say. There are definitely some experts out there, some people that are in the music industry that I respect their work and I respect what they do and how good a job they do at their job. But I certainly have found that I have a completely different opinion on sound quality than they do. And I've definitely found engineers, not just recording engineers, but music engineers, sound engineers, they all tend to rely on and feel that a flat response is going to be the best sound. And to me, that's just not the way I see it. And working in retail sales, and especially in the audio industry for probably about 15, 20 years, I came to find out that there's no such thing as the right speaker for everyone or the right sound for everybody, because hardly anyone is looking for that neutral sound, the one that's going to give you the most flat response. They all want something different, whether it be more mid-range, more bass and treble, more treble, less bass, all kinds of different stuff. And whether you want it to sound like you're at a rock concert, or whether you want to sound like you're listening to a jazz quartet in a room with no amplification, those two different applications are going to have different speakers, for example, and different recording mastering sound qualities to them too that you're going to prefer. So that is my take. A little long, long-winded, but I hope that gives you some information to think about. I would really like I had mentioned earlier, love to hear what you have to think about it and what you have to say and what your thoughts are, and get your take on what sounds best to you. As if I didn't spell it out succinctly earlier, I tend to like a little bit more of a smiley face EQ, where there's a little bit more bass and a little bit more treble than just a neutral sound. So especially bass, and if it's good quality bass and it's accurate bass, I actually like the bass boosted a little bit. I like to feel it in my chest, especially when obviously you can't hear that in headphones, but when you're listening to a recording through speakers, I want to be able to feel that bass in my chest, and I want to really get it, and get accurate, clean, kind of airy quality to the high end, which tends to mean a little bit more treble. So, But again, love to hear your take. Please comment below and give me your take on the whole sound quality issue and what you think is best and what you prefer and what you have found about my opinions, especially if you've listened to or seen my other videos with the sound quality shootouts, and see if you tend to agree with those or not. So if you liked what you saw here, please like this video. If you want to see more videos by me, please subscribe. And when you want to know when I release new videos, please hit that alert button. So that's my episode for this week. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.